The warning siren screamed across Karsa Station, sharp and endless, cutting through the quiet of space like a knife. And the red emergency lights painted the metal halls in the color of danger as cadets ran to their assigned positions. Boots striking the floor in uneven rhythm, fear heavy in the air. Karsa Station was small compared to great human cities, but it guarded the jump gate, the only safe path into nearby human systems, and if it fell, entire worlds would be left open and helpless. Among the rushing figures was Mira Hale, a human cadet who should never have been here during a real attack, young, still learning. Her armor slightly loose on her frame and her hands cold despite the heat inside the station. Around her moved alien cadets from stronger species who had been trained for war since childhood. Tall Virl with thick bones, scaled Threxians with natural armor, and sharp-clawed rune warriors, all looking tense but controlled. While Mira's heart beat so loud she feared others could hear it. The station AI spoke with calm authority, announcing a hull breach and confirmed hostile boarding craft, and the word hostile made Mira's stomach twist because drills never used that word. The Krell Dominion had arrived, a species known across the stars for their cruelty and hunger for conquest. Creatures of dense muscle and layered armor who believed strength was the only truth. And humans to them were weak prey that screamed easily and broke fast. The Krell had already destroyed human colonies, leaving silent planets behind, and now their heavy boots struck the hull of Karsa Station. Mira reached a cargo corridor assigned as a fallback defense point, the air shaking as something massive struck the outer wall, and a nearby cadet whispered that they were all going to die, the words slipping out before fear could be stopped. Then the wall exploded inward, metal and fire bursting into the corridor, smoke rolling like a living thing, and through it stepped a Krell shock trooper. Taller than any human, its armor dark and scarred, its weapon glowing with stored energy, yellow eyes scanning the hull as if already choosing who would die first. In that moment, time seemed to slow for Myra, the noise fading into a dull echo as her training rose from memory, her instructor's voice steady and firm, telling her not to panic, not to think too much, to act before fear took control. Her fear did not disappear, but it sharpened into focus, and she moved forward instead of back, boots gripping the floor as she raised her rifle with shaking hands that somehow steadied as the sights lined up. She saw the weak point beneath the enemy's neckplate, something her instructors said most cadets would never have the nerve to aim for in real combat. And she fired once, the recoil slamming into her shoulder as the shot struck true. The entire moment lasted only seconds, but when the smoke cleared, the Krell shock trooper crashed to the floor, its massive body shaking the corridor, its glowing weapon flickering and dying. Silence followed, thick and unreal, broken only by the distant sound of alarms and distant explosions. And every cadet stared in disbelief at the fallen enemy and then at Mira, who stood frozen, her rifle still raised, her breath fast and uneven. She had never killed before, never even been close, and the reality of what she had done pressed down on her chest, heavy and cold. But there was no time to stop or feel because the station lights dimmed again and new warnings flashed across her visor, showing more Krell signatures closing in fast. The fear returned, stronger now, but something else stood beside it, a hard, quiet determination born from the knowledge that if she did not stand, others would fall. Mira lowered her rifle only long enough to reload, her movements quick and precise, then stepped forward toward the smoke-filled corridor, not waiting for orders, not waiting for permission, moving because someone had to, and as the echoes of heavy alien footsteps drew closer, the legend of Death Whisper began, not with glory or pride, but with a scared human cadet choosing to move forward when every instinct told her to run. The station had become a living nightmare, a maze of fire, smoke, and chaos. as the Krell forces poured through every broken corridor, their armor clanking and weapons glowing with deadly energy. While cadets of all species fought desperately, some holding their ground, others retreating to regroup. And Mira moved through it all like a shadow, her heart hammering, her mind focused, her body responding faster than fear could reach her. Each hallway presented new threats, Krell soldiers charging from angles no human would have expected. Alien cadets struggling to keep pace with the invaders' sheer strength, and alarms echoing endlessly in the background, but Mira did not hesitate. Stepping over debris, sliding under swinging energy blades, and firing her rifle only when the shot would count, every move precise, deliberate, almost unnatural to those who watched. She observed her enemies carefully, learning their patterns in seconds, noticing the gaps in armor, the pauses in their attacks, the moment when a swing was too wide, and she exploited each one. A human moving in ways creatures 3 times her size could not predict, striking swiftly and vanishing before they could react. Her fellow cadets began to notice, whispers of awe passing through the halls as even the stronger alien warriors stepped aside to let her pass, understanding that she moved with a kind of deadly efficiency they could not match. In the command deck above, officers watched the feed from security cameras, their eyes wide, breaths caught in throats. As a human cadet they had all underestimated moved alone against overwhelming numbers, dispatching enemy after enemy with a speed and precision that seemed impossible. And one officer whispered, almost to himself, "That human. She's a force of nature." Mira reached the central junction of the station, where the core systems pulsed with energy and strategic control over the entire facility could be seized, only to find herself confronted by the Krell war leader, a massive figure marked with glowing red symbols, radiating menace and strength that dwarfed anything she had faced. It roared, a deep, resonating sound that shook the walls and made her chest tighten, and charged, swinging a massive energy-laced weapon with a force that could have crushed a human in an instant. Mira reacted instinctively, dropping her rifle when it overheated after only 2 precise shots and running toward the charging beast, her feet moving faster than thought. Heart pounding, muscles screaming, yet she did not falter, calculating the exact moment to slide under the leader's swing and strike at the weak point she had observed earlier, a gap beneath the jaw where the thick armor did not meet. And she drove a fallen energy blade upward with all her strength, feeling it pierce through resistance, the sound of armor cracking and metal giving way echoing in her ears. The Krell war leader collapsed, staggering and then falling, and the remaining enemies hesitated, unsure for the first time. And that moment of doubt allowed the human reinforcements to arrive, ships streaming through the jump gate with guns blazing, lighting up the blackness of space with streaks of fire and explosions, human fighters weaving between enemy vessels, laser fire cutting through enemy armor, cruisers exploding in brilliant bursts, and the tide turned swiftly as the human fleet tore through the Krell forces with strategy, coordination, and relentless determination. The hallways of Karsus Station were littered with fallen cadets and enemies alike, smoke rising from smoldering metal. Yet Mira stood at the heart of it, battered, bruised, her armor scorched and cracked, her breathing uneven, hands still shaking as adrenaline slowly ebbed. But she did not look like a girl who had survived her first fight. She looked like a legend, who had forged her name in the heat of battle. As night fell over the station, calm returned for the first time. The remaining Krell ships retreating into space, their pride shattered, their fleet broken and survivors, alien and human alike, whispered a single name that would travel across systems: Death Whisper. For she had struck silently, without hesitation, with deadly precision, and had survived. a young human who had faced impossible odds and emerged as a symbol of what humanity could achieve when pushed to the edge, showing that courage, ingenuity, and instinct could surpass brute strength, training, and fear. And even as Mira sat alone afterward, staring at the smoke rising from broken corridors, chest heaving, arms sore and dirty, she did not yet understand that in those terrifying hours, before night had fallen, she had become more than a cadet. She had become a story, a lesson, and a legend whose name would inspire generations of humans and allies, a proof that even the smallest, seemingly weakest species could shape the fate of the galaxy with courage and deadly precision. Months had passed since the battle at Karsus Station, and the story of Mira Hale, the human cadet who had slain her first Krell enemy in seconds, had spread across human space like wildfire, whispered in training halls, shouted in the mess decks of starships, and even reaching the ears of distant alien worlds where the Krell, Dominion themselves, had heard of the human who moved like death itself. Humans, once considered weak and soft, were now known as dangerous, unpredictable, and capable of feats that no one had believed possible. Mira had grown since that day, no longer the nervous cadet with oversized armor and shaky hands, but a young officer, trained further, experienced in battle, and respected by allies and feared by enemies. Her skills sharpened through countless drills and simulations, her mind capable of anticipating moves before they happened, and her body stronger and quicker, yet still unmistakably human. A creature not as large or fast as the Krell or the Vril, but smarter, braver, and more determined. The Krell, humiliated by their retreat and the legend that humans had created, gathered their fleets in secret, building a massive invasion force to crush humanity and reclaim their lost pride. And when they returned, entire systems braced for war, human fleets ready and stations fortified, every cadet trained in the memory of Karsus, every commander recalling the bravery of a single girl who had shifted the tide before. Mira stood on the bridge of a human warship. Her armor fitted perfectly now, her weaponry advanced, eyes calm, her mind focused as she watched the endless black of space, dotted with stars and distant fire, aware that the coming battle would demand everything from her and everyone she loved. She felt no fear, only determination and a deep responsibility to her species, knowing that the lives of millions, perhaps billions, hung on the edge of her actions. The battle began with sudden fury as Krell dreadnoughts collided with human lines. Massive explosions rippling through space, fighters twisting and weaving between beams of energy, human pilots flying through firestorms to strike at points that the Krell did not expect. While boarding crews from both sides fought in zero-gravity corridors, metal and blood mingling, cries and roars echoing as ships shook violently from impacts. Mira led a counterstrike team, moving with the same precision and lethal grace she had shown at Karsus, using tactics learned from countless simulations, improvising when the unexpected happened, her team relying on her instincts, and her presence inspired courage where fear might have taken hold. They boarded the enemy flagship, corridors filled with smoke, fire, and broken Krell soldiers, the oppressive weight of the enemy pressing in. Yet Mira remained calm, scanning every angle, anticipating every strike, striking with deadly accuracy, cutting a path straight to the core of the ship, and when the final moments came, she moved into the heart of the enemy vessel, placing the charges that would destroy it, knowing full well the sacrifice required. The Krell flagship erupted in a controlled chain of explosions, tearing the massive vessel apart, sending debris flying into the void, taking Mira with it, but ensuring the destruction of the Krell fleet, their forces scattering into space, broken and leaderless, the human fleet victorious but at great cost. And the echoes of battle stretched across systems as survivors counted the loss and the price of victory. News of Mira's final act reached human colonies and stations. Her name etched into history, songs sung in her honor. Cadets learning her story as part of their first lessons. Inspired by a human who had shown that strength was not only in muscle or armor, but in courage, ingenuity, and the will to act when the moment demanded it. She became a symbol of humanity itself, proof that the smallest, weakest species could shape the fate of the galaxy through determination, precision, and heart. Statues were erected in her honor, not just for the act of war, but for what it represented: the unyielding spirit of humans, their capacity to rise above fear, to fight with intelligence and strategy against overwhelming odds, and to turn what others considered weakness into the deadliest of weapons. The Krell, haunted by the memory of a single human cadet, now treated all humans with caution, understanding that legends could shape reality, and that one person's courage could inspire an entire species to stand taller, fight smarter, and survive when all seemed lost. Across the stars, the story of Death Whisper, as Mira was called, traveled in whispers, in warnings, and in awe, teaching both allies and enemies that humanity was more than flesh and bone. It was adaptability, bravery, and the unbreakable will to endure and to strike when necessary. And while Mira's life had ended in the destruction of the Krell flagship, her legacy continued to live, guiding new generations of cadets, reminding them that heroes could be made in moments of fear, that a single action could change the course of a war, and that humanity's strength was not in size, speed, or armor, but in the courage to act decisively, to embrace risk, and to face impossible odds with unwavering resolve. The galaxy remembered her not just as a warrior, but as a symbol of hope and resilience, a reminder that even the smallest species could leave an imprint so powerful that legends would be born before night fell, and that the story of Mira Hale, the human who became Death Whisper, would never fade, echoing through time and space as a testament to what humans could achieve when they refused to surrender, and when they believed in themselves, in each other, and in the power of one person to change everything.